they question you about your personal. They would question me about my personal life.
You know that's a strategy to not do no work, right, Mom?
Morning, and he wrote on a piece of paper, yes, yes to what?
You ring my ears in front of the whole class, and I was so mad because everybody could see it, and I didn't enjoy that time. I didn't enjoy that time at all. I didn't enjoy that time at all.
Who enjoy having? I have a mental block when coming to that. Remember that.
I remember that.
I mean, I can understand.
Back. Sorry, that was too loud.
That was too loud, bro. Dog, come on, dog.
We are back, Ori.
Yes,
Yo,
sir.
it's been a minute, man.
It's been a minute.
It's
bro.
been a minute.
It's been a minute.
We haven't been in the studio together for a little while.
Yeah, you were running away.
I've been running away a little bit,
Yeah,
but
it's all you. Take the blame. Hey,
but,
you take the blame, man. You take the blame.
But we're back now.
Yes,
We're back
sir.
with the consistency. This year, we're gonna be very, very consistent.
Yep.
But before we get into anything, Ori, what do we always do?
As always, got to give the big.
We give the big man thanks.
Yes, sir.
So we want to just give thanks to the big man upstairs, to God for making sure that it's a new year.
It's a new year.
It's a brand new year.
It's a big one.
So you want to give God thanks for allowing us to come through this whole of last year of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of good things, lots of struggles, lots of obstacles, but we're still here. We still have life.
Yep.
And some people didn't make it to 2022, so we got to be very thankful and grateful that we have life and that we're here.
Yes, sir.
It's a brand new year to start fresh. Any goals, anything that you want to do, we
sir.
can kill it this year. It's fresh, a brand clean state, clean slate.
Clean slate.
So I mean, I think me and Ori got some big goals for the year, big goals for the show.
Yep.
So we just want to thank God so much for everything. I have a special thing that I'm thankful for. Allowing some of my family to come up from the Caribbean, so that's super special to me. I haven't seen them in like almost 5 years, pretty much 5 years. So it's super big, super special for me. But who knows? We'll leave that for later. You might find out a little bit more later. But Ori, man. So man, what's going on for the new year, man?
Man, honestly, just going more deep into the grind. Just locking in, staying more consistent. Trying to, 2022 was a good year. Started rough, very rough, but towards the year it got better. Got the canon shit. So we need to do an update video actually.
We do need to do an update.
There's so many stuff that happened.
There's gonna be an update video before this, you know that.
Yeah. So
you can tell the people.
So go check the update video after.
Check the update video. It's gonna be right
there, like the eye.
It's gonna be right here or right there.
One of those faces.
It's gonna be in one of these areas here. So, but no, Ori's got some big things that he's accomplished and he's got going on, especially for this year.
Yeah.
You're gonna see an improvement in the quality. The quality is gonna go up crazy.
Oh, always
That's
does.
just a testament to him getting better at his craft.
Always does.
Your boy's growing some new hair right now.
Who is
Me?
I'll take it off.
I'll take it off. I ain't ashamed.
Bald.
But you don't see the spot no more.
Don't worry. Again,
Look, zoom in.
As I always
Zoom
say,
in.
I don't need to zoom in, bro. I have the photos. Have you forgotten,
That's
bro?
an old photo. That's a 2020. That's a 2021 photo.
That's if again. All this you're saying. As long as you keep the hair, you let it grow, it's gonna come back. You cannot escape it. It's always there.
It's okay. It's all about consistency.
Consistency in what, bro?
Application of products to the hair.
Products to the hair.
Minoxidil.
Bro,
coming for you.
Bro, you're bald. Just accept it, man.
Nah,
It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Like even me right now, you know what? I've accepted it. I'm getting bald. Like look at my side. It's straight.
Really? I like that.
It's straight.
I like that. I like this development for you.
So I accept it. But you're denying it.
No.
That's the difference.
I'm not ready to accept that.
Bro, you're getting bald. It's okay.
No.
You're aging. It's good.
I don't believe in that.
The
mind is a powerful thing. As soon as you accept something, then it starts happening. So I don't accept this baldness.
Yeah,
at
don't
all. I
worry.
refuse.
Again, like I always say, I have images, so I don't need to argue. I have pictures.
March Bay season, man. I don't know why y'all did that to me, man.
Dirty. Yeah, that was a good
I
video.
saw that, man. I don't know why y'all did that to me, man. Why would you do me like that?
My man was trying to do a crossover, and then bro, you could see his airline. It was like in there. It was like patches everywhere.
Man, but today
Boom, boom.
we're gonna have so actually just so you guys know, so we're not going to do a recap of the last episode. This is the first episode, the first recording of the new year. It'll probably be released a little bit later because we've had a bunch of episodes that were ready to go and fire. But this is the first episode of the new year, new beginning. It's really fresh. It's a really special episode for us, for me personally, especially too. But just so you guys know, it would have been announced by now, but it's a Grind Theory talk show now.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Talk
Grind Theory
show.
talk show right now.
Not the
We're here. We
podcast,
got
the
some
talk show.
new things coming on.
A lot of new stuff.
A lot of new things, a lot of new developments and all the improvements. So stay tuned. Just like how we always say, getting 1% better every day.
Yes,
That's
sir.
going to be our goal. So we can't say that and not do it. So even in the show, we
Yeah.
plan to do that as well. So we would have talked about the developments that we're going to do, but from now on, that's what it's going to be. So without further ado,
Okay. I am heading out. This is just going to be an Aquille show after this.
thank you, my man, Ori. So today, guys, we got a special guest for y'all. So this might be the most special guest we ever had on the show, at least for me personally, or one of the most special guests that we've had on the show. I'm going to introduce them here. So this guest is one of the most important people in the world. And this guest also has one of the hardest jobs in the world. Our guest today, she is the first of 3 girls and the 4th of 8 children. You know, they weren't wasting time back in those days. So the fourth of 8 children to Stella Williams of Union Island. You know, big up Union Island. Bop. Don't know. Union Island, which is in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She was a teacher for many years, both at the elementary level and at the secondary level. And she identifies herself as a child of God and is very passionate and loves speaking and sharing her experiences of God's transformation in her life. And not only that, but currently in the role that she has just been elected to participate in and be a part of, she is currently the coordinator of the SVG Mission, which is St. Vincent and the Grenadines Mission, and she's the coordinator of the Women's, the Children, and the Adolescent Division. And it is her passion to show young people how to stay grounded and how to find and discover themselves. Without further ado, a special guest and a special big up to Mrs. Veronica Ambrose, who is also Momma Ambrose in the building. Momma Ambrose.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's going on? This is a very, very, very special episode for me, guys, because as I said earlier, this is my mom. So I had the opportunity to have her up here in Canada with me for Christmas and the New Year's, and it's a really, really great opportunity because, like I said, I haven't seen her in about 4.5 years. So this is a really special episode for me, getting to be here with my mom. From since we started, I always said I wanted to interview, my parents, my family. And I already interviewed Arlene. We're going to do that again, a part 2 to that. But this is another goal accomplished here. So this is super, super big. A little bit of nerves, a little bit of excitement, with it being such a big episode for me. But it's going to be great, and we're going to kill it. So, without further ado, Momma Ambrose.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Aquille. Yes, sir.
What's going on? So,
Oh, I'm just so super anxious, excited to be here. I've looked at this, episode, this podcast, and from a distance, never thought I would actually be here. So it's excited to be here.
I know. I'm excited to have you here. We gonna jump right into it. So, Mom, take us back. Union Island, small island in the Caribbean. It's a place of your birth. Take us back to what it was like growing up and some childhood memories that you might have.
Wow, Union Island. As a young girl, I grew up in a single parent family, my mom, and I had like three brothers ahead of me. I'm the first girl, as Aquille mentioned before, and growing up in the islands, we as children, it was a lot of, I would say, fun, but a lot of hard work. That was the drill. You get up early and you get at it. It's in the kitchen, it's breakfast, then it's preparing for school, all day at school, then you come back home and then you are at it again. But it was also fun, fun in a different way, playing in a different way. Not we knew nothing about, sitting in front of a television, but you are outside in the yard, in the neighborhood, you playing cricket, you in and about. So that was what it was, work, and then there was that fun, that play. Yes,
and that play. No, and that's I figured that because especially back in those days, especially being the first girl, right? I'm assuming that a lot of the responsibilities of cooking and cleaning and helping mother out fall down to you, as you being the oldest sister there now. A lot of that's gonna fall on you.
Most definitely. A lot of that responsibility fell on me, being the first girl in that family, So I got up in the morning. It was breakfast on the table by 7, because then I had my bigger brothers, who had to go to work. So you had to prepare. I was responsible for preparing that. And when you're talking about preparing, I'm not talking about, going and buy bread. I'm talking about getting up and kneading that flour, putting it in the pot. And, in those days, it was what we call roasting. The bake in the big cast iron pot, fire below, fire on top.
Okay.
And you had to do that. We had things like cornfish or fried egg, and you prepared that. And not only that, because back in my time growing up, we didn't have, in the Caribbean, we have 2 seasons. We have the dry season and the wet season. And most of the homes carried what you call tank. We didn't have like pipe-borne water like that. So most of the homes built tank. So even in the morning before, you get any breakfast done, you have to go down to the well. You have to jug that water, sometimes full of drum of water. And then prepare the breakfast and then prepare yourself for school. And when you get back home in the evening, it's a similar kind of a routine, because then you have to prepare for supper then, So that's the, go up. But before you get to that, you had your moment where you can have your fun and you can play. Yeah.
So I guess even in that, even though maybe it was a lot of work and a lot of stuff like that, you said it was also fun. So I guess even in all those responsibilities, there was probably lessons that you were learning, even in all those responsibilities of taking care and helping out with your family, and things that helped you on in life too, with having kids now and then having to help prepare meals and stuff like that with them as well.
Most definitely. One of the things I grew up, my mom was a really hard worker, and when you're a single mom at that, in those earlier, she had to work hard, providing for family. And in those days, it's like, we reared animals, so it was a lot of hard work for me. When my siblings after me came along, I was also responsible for taking care of them when my mom went out to work, So I looked after my siblings, my younger siblings, especially the 3 last ones, So I looked after them. And it taught me a lot, because growing up, I see where, for me, it taught me how to work hard to achieve what I want. It taught me to be responsible and to really take care of my children, in the care of my children. So it taught me that, it taught me to work hard. Even if I see my mother do 3-4 jobs just to manage the home and to make it work, So that, prepared me to a great extent. Even for, when I migrated and come here to Canada, it prepared me for that kind of a hard work, because in that initial stage, it was really hard work. Yeah.
And there wasn't as many things that with technology to make things a lot easier for you too. So there's a lot of manual and stuff work. So Mom, so now you were born in Union Island, grew up, and you went to school. When you were in school, what was your emphasis? What was your kind of your focus, and what did you want to do while you were in school?
The truth is, I am not sure if I really had an idea of what I wanted to do. But I remember upon entering secondary school, I was introduced to the subject of accounting. And then I fell in love with accounting, subject that I loved. So I thought maybe I'll become an accountant. I would study accounting. I would become an accountant. And I actually later did study that. I went to college, and I have a diploma in accounting. I even, had started the accreditation program. But, I eventually went on and I taught accounting at the secondary school. But somewhere along the line, I realized that during the time of teaching the accounting, I would be teaching the class, and there were moments I realized when the kids, they would want a moment. They question you about your personal. They would question me about my personal life.
That's a strategy to not do no work, right, Mom? to get no work done.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was, but you had to know how to bring your class back on point, But those moments were moments of life lessons for them as well. And
so you taught both at the elementary level and at the secondary school level, right? What was some of the lessons, I guess, that you would have learned? Or was there anything that you picked up from teaching kids at both of those levels? And which one did you like more?
One of the things that I learned about children is that, you have a classroom of 15, 20 kids, and you realize that they are all different. They learn differently. One method may work for one group of children, but the others may be slow. You have to use a different method to really get the concept over to them. So, one of the things that I've learned is that we are different. We learn at different pace. We have different abilities, and so you have to take each child while you're teaching in class, you still have to take each on an individual basis to be able to pull the very best out of them.
I think that's a really good point, because I think even for me, myself, I know I'm a very physical learner. Sometimes I have to do the thing to actually comprehend and really get a great understanding of it. And I remember sometimes the teachers, because they didn't pick up on that, sometimes in certain aspects of class I got left behind because they wouldn't recognize that. But I think that's really a really interesting and cool point, that you were able to recognize that each kid is different and that each kid learns in different ways. I think it might be a little bit difficult, I guess, in the classroom as a teacher to kind of manage that, because you got to teach a lesson, and you can't maybe take time out to teach give each individual kid some time in their lesson. So kind of how did you manage to kind of manage that, to still be able to teach each kid a chance to kind of learn in his unique way, while still getting the whole collective group to understand the lesson?
Well, you teach the class, right? You teach the whole collective group, but for those children that might be a little bit slower, might need a little extra help, even while you would give the teach the class and you would give the class work to do, you still find some time, to go around to help that child extra, or you take the time after, to help them to grasp the concept that you may be trying to teach.
Okay. No, that's a great point. So just kind of touching back, going back into your childhood. So now you've gone through elementary school, you've gone through secondary school right now. Did you stay in Union Island right after secondary school? You went into teaching, or did you go on to post-grad in the St. Vincent or Union Island or anything like that?
No, after secondary school, I went into teaching.
Straight into teaching?
I went straight into teaching then.
Okay.
Yeah, I taught at the elementary level then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And so now you've been teaching at the elementary level for a while now, and then I believe at some point in that time you probably met my dad. So I don't even know the story. How did you meet Papa Ambrose?
Well, we went to school together.
Okay.
I mean, we grew up in the same village pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He was in one village and I lived in the other.
Mm-hmm.
But then I used to, it's a small community.
Mm-hmm.
So we grew up together. We went to the same school, together. As a matter of fact, we started dating together while, we were still at secondary school.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, at some point in this process while you guys were dating, was there any difficulties? Like, did your mom like dad right away? How was that? Was there any challenges in dating, in getting to the point where you guys have been married now for almost, you told me 30 years, going to be now, but was there challenges initially when you guys first started dating?
Yeah, there was, challenge from the outset, My mom being a single parent mom, and one of the things was that my mom was a single parent, and as a single parent, remember, you are always especially trying to guard your girl children. And because of my mom's experience, with her own previous relationship, I think what she tried to do was to shelter me, because she didn't want me to experience the same things that she did. As a matter of fact, I didn't think she wanted a girl child, because for the reason, that she went through a certain experience in relationship with men that, with a particular gentleman that she was involved with, my first brother and sisters, my first two brothers' father, right? And because of that experience, she prayed not to have a girl child because she didn't want that girl child to have that experience. And so in essence, my mom was very strict.
With you.
And as I said, I am the first girl,
Yeah.
So she was very strict. She didn't really allow me to go anywhere. When my other friends, like for example, on a Sunday evening, they would go to certain function, she didn't allow me to go anywhere. She was always watchful. She was always very strict, very strict. I grew up in a very strict environment with my mom. Went to church, back then. Our church was gospel hall, and so I went to church. I was that kind of a girl. Go to church, teach Sunday school, and home, and that was my life. Yeah.
Okay, and so it's funny that you bring up that, because now I want to kind of dive into this, because as with you coming from a strict background, right? Did that make you want to be more rebellious, to do more of the things, or did it not bother you in any way?
I don't know if I really wanted to be rebellious. I think because of when in those days when you grow up in that kind of strict environment, you just pretty much kind of follow what you are being told. But there is an element, I think, that comes into play. There is that element of, what should I say? You searching maybe for that element of love. And sometimes when you're in that strict environment and you don't get that sense of, okay, love. And it really is really how you show. Because I think with my mom, the way in which she really showed love was her love language was to get you things. So, I remember very well as growing up as a young person, I remember one of the things that I had as a gift. I had 2 bracelets. I remember having a chain, and that kind of a garden. But you were looking for that, or should I say, you were looking for that person to say to you things like, I love you, to affirm you in that kind of a way. And, you just saw it as coming across as, you just have to kind of follow the rules and, and be this girl going to church and, But that really kind of a emotional, connection and thing, it wasn't really there for me.
And so how did you realize at the time, or is this more realizing this more now as you look back and through introspection, or did you realize that at the time?
At the time, I don't think I realized it then. I think a lot of the stuff that I know now is, from my own experience, even after I would have had my own children, and, you have grown and learned so much more, I'm looking at myself now and I say to myself, I wish I knew a lot of the stuff that I knew now, then, or even when I was even having my own family, to be different. Yeah.
Okay. And so you've gone through these experiences now, and so you meet Dad, and from meeting Dad now, you guys end up having Arlene, right? So I can imagine now when you have Arlene, that mother is the exact thing that she was trying to avoid, and it that's just what happens. So what kind of was her initial reaction, and what was your mindset kind of when that happened?
Well, I mean, in a situation with your dad, to be quite honest, I didn't even know when that happened, because when I the relationship developed with your dad, I remember your dad was always behind me, always, I remember one time, just telling him, I looking at him and I'm saying to him, he said, I will never be with you, because he was this dark,
He was ugly.
Yeah. Guy,
Sorry, Pops. Not anymore. Not anymore. It looks sweet now.
Absolutely not. But yeah, and so I never saw myself in that in that relationship actually with him. I mean, I was going to school, I was doing well, always in the top 3, first, second, third. There were 3 girls in that class. And with the 3 of us, we were always interchanging position, first, second, third, and then especially with my mom being strict. But the thing with, with Arlen, he was always, he was, always seeking me out, seeking me out through my brothers, through friends, and I would just always give him those hard talks. There's one phrase that usually he reminds me of. He says, I always used to say to him, hard to get but easy to keep, something like that. He would always remind me of me saying that, and I remember that as I going to secondary school then, every 12 o'clock I had a aunt that lived in the village where he lived. So every 12 o'clock I had to take lunch for her. And he would wait for me. He would always wait for me. Always have his bag of mangoes, and he would, wait for me and everything like that. And I guess it happened, and I didn't even realize when it happened, but your dad is a very loving person. He's a very loving person.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what really kind of pulled me into him, because he was a very loving, was a kind of loving. And so for me, he showed that love, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. 30 years later. 30 years later.
And we were young,
Yeah.
know. When I had Arlene, I was just about 19.
19.
Yeah.
So when you had Arlene now, 19, were you scared? Like, did you know what to do, how to take care of another human now? I guess you've had siblings and stuff, so you were accustomed to taking care of another human. But now this is your little human now that you're taking care of, your little mini me. So were you scared at any point? Was it doubt or anything like that going through your mind at that time?
Well, of course you're scared. I mean, here I am. I realized this is what my mother was trying to prevent at the time, trying to, because she have had our experience and she didn't want me to have that experience. But back then, somebody come along and they show you, that love, and, that's all you're thinking about, right? And so, but it was a scary experience for me. I'm still just barely even, out of high school, or barely there, maybe still in high school, and here I am pregnant. So can you imagine having a mom that, have to work so hard to support her children, and then here is your first daughter, your only daughter, your first daughter rather. She had so much dreams for me, she didn't want fly to touch me, in essence. You understand? So I imagine what it was like for her, right? And to see all that you were trying to prevent, all you were trying to guard against, here it is being fulfilled in the way in which you didn't want it to. So it was devastating for her, right? But it was even more so for me, because then I'm 18 years now and I'm pregnant. You understand? And while I would have raised my younger sibling and knew what to do, the reality is different when it's you. This is yours. This is you. As you're looking at your friends. They are moving on, but you have a young child to look after. My schooling is kind of put on the back burner, and I have to figure out how I'm gonna take care of this child.
And so kind of, what was your next course of action now? So what was kind of the follow-up? So after Arlene is born now, what's kind of the follow-up now? What's the next steps that kind of happen?
Well, Arlene actually was born in January, and I think it was just a few months after that I started teaching. Yeah.
Okay.
The same year Arlene was born, and I think Arlene was born early in January, and I started teaching this September. Yeah.
Right back.
So
Right to it, pretty much. 'Cause you need to find. You need to make funds, you need to
because
make money. And
I have a young child to take care of. So right after birthing Arlene for a few months, and then I started teaching. My mom looked after her for a short while during the day, and I went to school. But then shortly after, I had to pay persons to look after her while I went to work, and till she was able to go into preschool.
Preschool.
Yeah.
So, in that period, I know it might be a little bit different now as opposed to back then, but would you have any advice now from your experience and looking back? Would you have any advice for somebody else that might be in a similar situation, having, being young and having a kid at a really early age, maybe not quite yet? Because, at this time, you're just a baby. You're not even an adult, really. Yeah, you're just, figuring out your stuff, just finishing school. And then you're having a kid now. Maybe what advice, just from your experience, what advice maybe could you give to somebody else who might be in a similar situation?
Oh, wow. That's an excellent, question and an area that I am, I think I am really passionate about, dealing with young people, dealing with adolescents, even in my position as the, women, children, and adolescents ministries coordinator. I think one of the things God has laid on my heart is that as I would like to encourage young people, I would like to encourage adolescents like I was at that age. You're in school, right? Focus on your school, right? And when you finish school, it's that portion of time. It's a time for you to know who you are. That's one of the things that I've learned. When I hit 50, right, and I realized I felt like if I was living my life for the very first time, like that I am just beginning to live my life. Because all my time prior to that was wrapped up in my family, given to my family, raising my kids, given into, my husband, and raising our children, So for young people at that age, my age, that is a time I am coming out from my mom, who was very strict, and from my mom, who was very, raised me up in a very strict home environment. Okay? And then find myself into pregnancy and straight into, my own family. By 24, I was married, and raising my children. Okay? I had no time to know who I am. I did not know who I am. I did not know what was my purpose of being here on this earth. Why am I here? Why am I given life every day? But here I am at 18, 19, already with a family. That is a time for you to be grounded in yourself, to know who you are. And I think that's one of the mistakes sometimes as young people we make. You understand? So you have not had the time to know who you are. And then you get into a relationship with somebody who might know a little bit more of themselves than you are, or who themselves doesn't know who they are. Right? And you get into a relationship, you begin to grow. One of you may grow faster than the other may lag behind, whatever the dynamics. And then next thing you know, maybe 30 years, 20 years, you see each other going their separate way. Because as you grow, sometimes what happens is that you grow apart. So that time, so my advice to young people, young adolescents, that is a time for you to know who you are, to know how to love yourself. It is a time for you to know what is your purpose. It is a time for you to explore the world that is before you. Before you think about having a family, raising children, and even marriage. You find many who are married today. They may have a good marriage, but they're just learning about themselves. They're just figuring out who they are, what they want to do, what is their purpose. I find myself in that situation. I find myself in that situation so that after 50, sorry, I felt like if I'm just beginning to live my life.
Okay. And so we're gonna come back to that point there a little bit later on. So now you have just had Arlene. You have just started teaching. How did you eventually now migrate to Canada?
Well, your dad, as a matter of fact, migrated to Canada at the time. We weren't married then, but we were together. We just had Arlene and one child together. And he migrated. And while he was here, he came back to Union Island.
Okay.
Then we got married. And he went back to Canada. And then subsequently, I joined him. Myself and Arlene, we joined him.
Okay. And so when you first came to Canada, where did you guys kind of settle down? Was it in Edmonton? Was it Alberta? Was it Toronto? Was it where did you guys kind of first settle down?
Oh, we settled in Toronto. I remember we had an apartment, 75 Havenbrook Boulevard, Havenbrook Boulevard, I think it was, yeah, in Toronto. Don Mills and Shepherd, for Don Mills and Shepherd area. Apartment there, I think we lived on the 4th floor, yeah.
Okay.
In that apartment. That's where, yeah. I
Okay.
joined him in Toronto then.
Okay, and so how did life kind of start progressing there now? So now you come up to Canada now, right? And now I guess it's a whole new entire place now, whole new culture, whole new city, whole new country. What was that experience like? Because I know that must have been difficult. I know there's lots of immigrant families that are now moving from, especially if they're coming from smaller islands. Union Island is a small island. Coming into a big city now, what is that? Sometimes that's a culture shock. What's that experience like?
Yeah, it was indeed a culture shock. A shock in the sense that, not so much culture, but a shock in the sense that, you in this big city. And I remember when we came in the winter.
Oh, my goodness.
It was the winter. And I remember one of the first things that was very that kind of just stayed on my mind was the fact that it was so cold. I can't remember where we were, but we went, I guess, to maybe one of his siblings, and I remember that night we stayed there, and I think it was his brother, and I was freezing cold. I remember that. It was freezing cold. But one of the things that I loved about it was the snow. When I looked out and I see, the leaves, and I see the white everywhere. And, I look at the trees and I see this, the snow, even the hoarfrost and the tree. It was just so beautiful, right?
That is nice.
For me, yeah. So I enjoyed that. In spite of the cold, I enjoyed that, When I look at the city, I look at the lights, I think when we came in, it was night and all you could see this light. And I'm like, wow, where am I going in the city that with all these lights here? So.
Just imagine coming from Union, where everything dark, soon as 6 o'clock reach, everything dark and thing, and then coming, that's a way different experience.
Yeah.
And snow, because that was your first time seeing snow when you came to Toronto.
Yeah.
I mean, in person, right? In person,
yes,
right?
Yes. I would have seen pictures and stuff like that, but
Oh man, I would have been mad at that. I'd be like, you come bring me to this cold place, and even bring me in the summer or nothing like that. But okay, so now you get here you're at 75 Havenbrook. Havenbrook. Hey, oh my goodness. Yes. So Now, what's the next steps now? So now that you guys got here now, I don't know what time frame. I think I come along shortly after this or sometime soon.
Yeah.
But kind of, what was the next steps like? So did you go to school? Did Dad go to school? What kind of happened after that?
Well, Dad was in school,
Okay.
because Dad, real, came with the intention that he was going to go to school, and so at that time, he was going to school, he went to Seneca College, he did some upgrade classes at George Brown and Centennial, and then he went on to Seneca, where he did, electronics at Seneca College. So at that time, I was home with Arlene because Arlene was still, baby, and I was just still. She was about maybe 5 around that age
Okay.
when we came. And so I stayed home with her, get her settled into school, and was home for a while I get myself accustomed to the new environment and new way of life. So initially I was at home, while Dad went to school and worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now, so Farlene was about 5, about maybe 3 or so years after that, I come along now.
Yes.
So your first son comes along, bundle of joy, the best looking one,
Well, Aiden might have something to say about that.
My little brother might have something to say about that, but he's wrong. But yeah, so I come along now. What at this time now, when I come along, I guess what was happening at that time? Were you guys still in Toronto? Had you moved? What was going on at that time?
We were still in Toronto, and that would have been like about 3 years after coming to Canada.
Okay.
I remember Arlene saying, "Oh, Mom, I need a brother. She was really excited. I remember
Pray for me, boy.
I remember being excited, when
Sorry.
I found out that I was pregnant, and we went to the doctor. When I came out and we told her, she said, "Yes, I'm gonna get a brother." So she was pretty excited. She wanted a brother, so she was pretty excited. So about 3 years after we arrived in Canada, I had you.
Okay.
And at that time, I think Dad was still doing school and work. Dad was still, he was still doing school and work. I was at home.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, I was at home. As a matter of fact, I didn't really start working until after I started working quite a bit after.
Yeah, because I guess you would have me then now too. So
Arlene
now
was
you'd
still,
yeah.
in elementary, and then I had you, so I had to look after the children. Yeah.
So shortly after you have me, I think we decide to move out to Alberta at some point. What kind of sparked that move? And was it difficult to move out to Alberta? What was that like? And then I know shortly after that, also we also went home back to the Caribbean. So can you just kind of fill us in on that little time period there?
Well, Alberta, I eventually, after I eventually went to, I eventually went to college, right? I also went to Seneca College. I did accounting at Seneca.
Okay, so you did accounting
Right?
at Seneca.
Yes,
Okay.
at Seneca. And
That's where you got your diploma.
Yes, and
Okay.
it was at that. It was at at that stage. I think I went to Seneca College. I had 1 semester to finish, but I was working at a chemical laboratory
Okay.
place in the accounting department. I had gotten
Okay.
a job in the accounting department.
Okay.
And it was around that same time. I remember my husband waking up one morning and he wrote on a piece of paper, yes. You know, yes to what? Yes to a call to go into ministry. Something that I put off. He was working with Celestica, an IBM company at that time. And for 1 year, he had put off that call. And so I think it was in 1998, he said yes. And that was the beginning of a new journey, a new place, a new province, and so that is what sparked our move to Edmonton. Alden saying yes to the Lord, what called him into ministry to study, to be a pastor.
And so, what were your thoughts at that time? You guys just got to Toronto. Now you're getting called ministry. You're coming into Edmonton now. What was your first kind of initial thoughts?
Well, to be quite honest, I still had a semester of schooling to do. I was working, and of course, it's a hard decision when you just getting into that, doing something for yourself. You're working and you trying to finish up schooling, and here comes a new plan, that will take you away from that. So, at first it wasn't, something that I wanted to do, but, the decision was made, and we moved, he went on ahead of us, so I stayed back. I remember myself and you and Arlene were there. I would go to work, and then I had to teach Arlene to pick you up from daycare because you were going at the daycare. So I had to teach her to pick you up.
No good job.
Because every evening I arrived late. The traffic, traffic, Highway 7, I come across on Highway 7 and there was so much traffic. So every time I get to the daycare, I had to pay, that $20, that extra $20. So then I had to teach Ali now to get to the bus, go up, pick you up, and then head home so that I don't have to pay that $20. And I think it wasn't long after, maybe a month or two after, your dad just bought 2 tickets, tickets for us, and we all went to Alberta. Next thing I know, I was packing everything, and we are on our way to Alberta. Yeah.
So, you come to Alberta now. I get into school. I think I go to kindergarten and maybe a little bit of grade 1. And then we make another change to go back home, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
At that time. So we head back home. That's another kind of big change. I think you might have been in some classes as well at CUC when you came to Alberta. If I'm not mistaken, I think you were working and going to school. So we do that, and then we make another trip to go back home to the Caribbean, right? When we go back to the Caribbean, I can't remember or not, but were you working for that period when we went back home, back to the Caribbean?
Yeah, so after Dad graduated, we decided that he got a call from back home to be a pastor, and so he accepted the call, and we went back home. Initially, I was not working, when I got back home. It took me about 6 months thereabout, for before I got a job. About 6 months thereabout.
Okay.
Before I got a job, I was working with the Freitas and Associates, as doing accounting.
Okay.
When we went back, that wasn't long. I think after that, I would have worked a couple other places. I think the last place I ended up was working with an insurance company,
Okay.
British American Insurance.
Company. I think I remember that actually. I think
Yeah.
I remember British Insurance. I think I remember that one. And so now you get to a period now. So, after you worked for a couple of companies here, I think you get to a period of unemployment, right? How did that period come about?
Well, I think there was a little gap in between there because
Okay.
so after the insurance company and then dad was transferred to Union Island to work, right? And so when your husband is transferred, the
Everybody
family
goes, yeah.
moves along with him. And so I left my work at British American Insurance and I went to Union. And of course, going to Union without a job, So I went down, but eventually that's when I applied, and I got the job at the secondary school to teach accounting. And so, yes, I taught
started teaching.
accounting there and then. And so we were there for a while, and it is while there in Union Island that I got pregnant with Aiden, right? I
Troublemaker.
got pregnant, yes, with Aiden. And so in 2009, I had Aiden, and then I returned back to Canada,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So it was 2009, I returned back to Canada.
Mm.
And I returned with the intention, really, the plan was that I would get the opportunity to go back to school, And so, my husband came up after, Alan came up after, and joined us, and and then that brings us to where you and Arlene are right now. That's how you guys are in Edmonton, right here at this moment.
See, so I want to just take a real quick step back, just because that period of time when you were teaching in the school, that, I love you, Mom, but that was the most, I did not enjoy that period of time because I couldn't commit no mischief. I couldn't do nothing. All the kids would try and egg me on so that I would get in trouble because they know they can just run over to the thing and go and tell you. I remember that one day in class when I think I get in an argument with Olani. Shout out to Olani. I get in an argument with Olani, and I don't know if I don't know if I cuss back or I say something, and you came and you ring my ears and you grab me and bring me to the front of the class or whatever, you ring my ears in front of the whole class, and I was so mad because everybody could see it, and I didn't enjoy that time, I didn't enjoy that time at all. I didn't enjoy that time at all.
Who enjoy having I have a mental block when coming to that. Remember that.
I remember that.
I mean, I can understand, I can understand your mom being the teacher. Of course, you have to manage the class, and that class, was just a challenging, very challenging group. You guys were a very challenging group of children, and you have to manage. And I cannot be teaching you and then have you disturbing my class, or but I understand the challenge that it was then, with me being your teacher, and trying to get the English done and everything done, so that I could understand. I could understand that, but yeah.
So just jumping back now. So you come back to Canada. You have Aiden, and we're back in Canada now, and that's kind of where me and Arlene are here. Arlene, I think, came over a little bit later because I think it was initially just me, and then Aiden was born. Aiden was very young, and so I guess what was I gonna say here? So you have us, and then in that short period of time, Dad is here, but I think he gets another call to go back home, if I'm not mistaken. And so, one of the things I was gonna ask you was, you had to then leave us here, right? You had to make a decision. I kind of want to know kind of how was that decision to make, what kind of went into that decision, because I think in this previous talks that we had, I said that was one of the most difficult decisions that you've had to make in your life. So how did that come into play, and what was kind of what kind of led up to that? And yeah, what kind of led up to that?